Happy to be not having to involve TSA pre in today's celebration.
Yeah, TSA free interviews. Those, I don't know about you, but I was a little stressed out when I got mine because they really made it. I did mine in New York City, and they really made it seem like I was a terrorist somehow, even though I obviously was not. But
no, I know what you mean because, well, first of all, you have to schedule it 3 months in advance, or you did. Mm-hmm. Which is why, even though I was premiering a new show that day, I was like, you know what, I'm not going to skip this. And then they're like, so you went to Malta? Why? And I'm like,
really?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not. People go to Malta.
Yes, but why, Sarah?
Well, I don't know. I mean, vacation.
Who goes to Malta? Why did you choose Malta?
A huge Wanda Bird Chronicles fan, and that's why.
I actually had a really good answer because it was an IFA event. So it was that, and it was the kind of thing where I'm like, oh, well, there was a tech conference called IFA. They were having a press event there, and that immediately was like, oh, okay. So you didn't choose Malta. Got it.
That's acceptable.
Well, I was honored to be on the first show, and I'm honored to be here again. Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks for making the time to do this. It's pretty great.
My pleasure.
Awesome.
I'm just gonna let you tell us all about cars in the main topic.
Sure.
What should I get?
Roger wants to know what to buy.
Does Chang really know anything about cars, though? Come on, guys. Don't throw him under the bus.
Yes.
Yeah, the hard questions as we go live. That sounds good.
Cars and routers. No.
Sure.
I forget about routers. I was hearing on NosillaCast this weekend. Bart Buchatz was talking about his routers and replacing routers, and I'm like, gosh, I should pay more attention to routers. But I guess that's a good thing that I don't need to anymore. Like, I have a router that updates its own firmware, so I don't have to go in and do it. It used to be I had to actively manage my routers.
As I was cleaning up my office, I found like 4 or 5 old routers that were just, I'd upgrade one, I put it on the shelf, think, okay, I'll eBay this later, and then it just never happens. So I've got a collection of routers. In 20 or 30 years, I can submit them to some technology somewhere. I'm sure they'll be in high demand.
Well, when I moved into my apartment now, I had to update my router because it was some speed plan that my Airport Extreme that was quite long in the tooth just wasn't going to deal with.
Couldn't handle the speed.
Yeah, exactly. So, which is fine. It has given me 0 issues. But yeah, the airport over the years, you'd have to go in there and mess with it every so often. It would just get weird. That's
why I don't have to. I stopped using an airport a long time ago.
Yeah, and when it worked fine. Yeah. But it got a little squirrely at times.
Well, are y'all ready?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's get rolling here. In 3. Oh wait, I almost forgot how I do this.
Wait, how do we do this?
Asking the wrong persons.
Okay. Yeah, because I do want to start at a particular time for reasons. Although I don't know if those reasons are as big of a deal. All right, here we go. 3, 2. Joe Kuntz has supported independent tech news directly for 5 years. Be like Joe. Become a DTNS member at patreon.com/DTNS. This is the Daily Tech News for the 5th year in a row. Wednesday, January 2nd, 2019 in Los Angeles. I'm Tom Merritt.
And from Studio Feline, I'm Sarah Lane.
And I'm the show's producer from the outskirts of LA County.
5 years ago today, we launched this show, and our guest on that day was Mr. Tim Stevens. And I'm very pleased that Tim was able to come back more. I mean, he's been on in between as well, but 5 years later to help us celebrate. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you for having me, Tom. It's definitely an honor to be here. I'm glad things have gone so well for 5 years. It's been great to watch the show all this time, and I'm honored to be back.
Thank you. Honestly, if you had asked me on that show 5 years ago, if we were going to be here 5 years later, I don't know whether I would have been able to honestly say yes, but I'm very glad we are. And we have lots of cool stuff to celebrate our 5-year anniversary, including some merchandise for our patron supporters and more. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But the reason we've been here for 5 years is because we start with a few tech things you should know.
Net Applications estimates that Windows 10 held 39.22% of desktop OS market share in December, while Windows 7 finally fell behind to 36.9%. Windows 10 was released 3.5 years ago. Windows 7 came out 10 years ago. Microsoft will end extended security updates for Windows 7 on January 14th, 2020.
Now, I hope you enjoyed our special episodes over the holiday break, but we have been off for a little while. And a couple of weeks ago, Fierce Wireless reported that AT&T, I just hate it when companies do this. T-Mobile did it with 4G. AT&T is changing the LTE indicator on its Android phones, some of its Android phones, to say 5GE instead of LTE when connected to a 5G Evolution tower. 5G Evolution is not 5G. 5G Evolution is a marketing label for a bunch of LTE technologies like carrier aggregation, 4x4 MIMO, stuff like that. It does provide faster service. Actual 5G service from AT&T will show up on your phone as 5G Plus.
Well, Tom, maybe this will make you happier. Roku announced it will offer premium video channel add-ons to its free Roku channel. Offerings will include channels like Showtime, Stars, and Noggin. The Roku channel streaming service and any add-ons you buy will also be available on the Roku mobile app.
Oh, that does make me happier. Thank you.
Okay, good.
Let's talk a little bit more about science. Ars Technica reports on a paper published in the journal PLOS One showing that Facebook users, on average, in their study, said they would have to be paid more than $1,000 a year if they were to stop using Facebook. Now, you're
Who's going to pay them?
You're going to want to take pot shots at this, but this is a really well done study. They wanted to find out how much is this actually worth to you, Facebook? If we paid you to stop using Facebook, how much would it take? Now, people could say, well, give me $1 million, right? So to make it realistic, they primed them. They did training questions before they introduced the Facebook questions. So things like, how much would you take to not wear shoes the rest of the day? And then they followed up with real world consequences. The lowest bidder had to go the rest of the day at the study without their shoes on. So it trained them like, hey, these questions are real. We're really going to do this. They also used something called second price auction, which meant that no matter what you bid, the second lowest price would be the price that got paid, so that you knew you shouldn't try to skew it by saying you're going to have to pay me a ton of money. I can't really explain it well, but statistically, that's a very good way to keep values real. And then the respondents who won the bids really did have to quit Facebook for up to a week. It was 1 day, 3 day, or week periods, and were in fact paid by the study. So that all of this was a way to get an accurate number. And generally, I mean, we aren't talking about $1,000 a year in practice. In the study, they were saying things like, okay, $4 for a day, $5 for a day, $14, $15 for 3 days, $37, $40, stuff like that for a week. But it was, the amounts would end up being $1,000 a year. And I think the point of this is people say they will delete Facebook and don't. We know that. And people really do, when push comes to shove, find it difficult to want to quit Facebook for multiple reasons.
This really feels like an episode of Black Mirror that's kind of escaped into the real world, right? People wanting or needing that much money or needing that much incentive to give up this website. That's really disconcerting. This is a bad way to start the year off, Tom.
Well, I know what you mean. A lot of them say it's because of work. It's because of their livelihood. They communicate with their boss. They communicate with their customers. There's family issues for a lot of people. So there are those situations where people are like, oh yeah, I could do without most of Facebook, but ooh, if I really had to go without it, there is that one thing that I have to have it for.
I mean, that's always been my excuse. Facebook can be infuriating to me at times, but I always say, well, but it's a promotional tool and it helps. I kind of keep in touch with people from home and family, but it's more so that I feel like I need it for work. The incentive of getting $1,000 to not use Facebook for a short period of time is pretty nice, though.
For a year. I mean, it's not short.
Well, okay, but it's not forever either.
Yeah.
And probably at the end of it, you'd figure out other ways to connect with those folks.
I think I could do it.
I think I could too. In fact, I really want to. The US FCC approved Google's radar-based motion sensor known as the SOLI project. The chip tracks hand and finger motions at high speed with accuracy. It can allow users to control devices just by touching them. No need for knobs or switches or even touch screens. The project received a waiver to operate at higher power levels than usually allowed and will be allowed to use on planes as well.
Yeah, Facebook had actually put in a protest about the higher power usage, but came to an agreement, which I think means that Facebook will get similar waivers for some of their wireless projects, things like Oculus Go and stuff that they want to use. But it's not even just touch-free. It also could do with watches, like be able to sense your motion above the watch, so you wouldn't even have to touch the watch. Great for accessibility in multiple situations, and really could revolutionize how we interact with devices.
And moving to radar, I think, is an interesting thing. We've seen technologies from companies like Elliptic Labs using sonar and acoustic technologies that tend to be very short range, but radar should allow you to go much further away from the device, which could mean you could put something like this in your living room, for example, and control smart devices by pointing at them. There's also an automotive application too. BMW has some really simple gesture technology in their car, but it's based on a camera built in the roof of the car. And not everybody wants cameras, pointing at them all the time. Going with something like this would allow you to track gestures without having to worry about a camera being pointed at you all the time with all the security ramifications there.
This is one of those developments that I think is going to it's going to take a while to work its way into the marketplace. And when it does, the first one is going to feel kind of gimmicky. Mm-hmm. But I wouldn't be surprised if a few years down the road, this is a regular way that we interact with stuff, especially in the home and in the car. I don't think it replaces touchscreens any more than touchscreens have gotten rid of keyboards. But I think this is going to be a pretty normal way we interact in the future.
Yeah, I totally agree.
The USB Implementers Forum has recommended implementation of USB Type-C authentication program. Now, this is a recommendation. It'll probably go through, but it isn't through yet. If it gets adopted, the program would require cryptographic-based authentication for USB-C devices and chargers. So devices like your phone could be set not to charge or exchange data with anything plugged into them that isn't implementing the standard. PCs could be set to only allow connections from verified USB-C devices. So the first place my mind went to was I never plug into any of those public USB ports in airplanes or airports or hotels, because I don't know what's on the other side of them unless I have a cable that I'm sure is power only. This would allow me to feel a little more safe doing so, because it would be a standard that I could look and say, okay, is this really an authentic port? Now, granted, people could swap that out and that could be a problem, but it would cut down on misuse.
I totally agree. I am a little bit concerned though that we're adding another standard on top of USB-C, and different implementations of this could mean that you might have more cables that are incompatible with more devices. And it's already a bit of a landmine or a landmine field right now with USB cables trying to buy the right ones for the right amperage for the right devices. And now if we're adding another standard on top of that, it might get even more complicated. And this, USB-C world was supposed to be, every cable for every device. And it's rapidly showing me that it's not really going to be that way.
I don't know. I think those of us who work with multiple devices feel this and kind of over-index it. I'm not trying to say it isn't a problem, but I don't think it's going to continue to be as much of a problem as it has been. Hopefully it'll work itself out as more devices get USB-C. This would be a protocol that would let you know if something is safe. And I feel like that it doesn't introduce the kind of complexity that you're talking about as much. It basically says, hey, you can look for a device and make sure that it's cryptographically protected or not.
Yeah, I hope not.
Yeah. It wouldn't mean that every device is cryptographically protected, though. That's for sure. So it does introduce that kind of complexity.
Netflix has removed the second episode of Patriot Act with Hassan Minhaj from its service in Saudi Arabia after receiving a government order to do so. In the episode, Minhaj criticized Saudi Arabia's crown prince, also the war in Yemen. Clips of the statements are still available on Netflix's YouTube channel in Saudi Arabia, however.
Yeah, and Netflix says they haven't. It's not that they're refusing to take those down. They haven't received a request to take those down. Only the actual episode on Netflix, which is interesting. I don't know if Saudi Arabia just isn't concerned with YouTube, or if they
just haven't gotten around to realizing that
they just didn't get to it yet.
Sure.
It is illegal in Saudi Arabia to criticize the crown prince. But I mean, it's a different world to think of for most Western countries, where it is illegal to stop us from criticizing government officials, right? We have free speech protections. Saudi Arabia is a more traditional absolutist monarchy, and it is illegal there to criticize the crown prince. So, and Netflix is just following the law, but a lot of people are criticizing Netflix for following the law and saying you should resist this. And if they will not budge, you should not do business in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, and there's certainly an increasing trend against doing business in Saudi Arabia. Certainly a big push against companies who do so. And, this is just another factor, that major, massive story that's continuing to build and will continue to build through 2019. It was certainly one of the biggest stories in 2018. But yeah, I think it's a little bit difficult to expect Netflix to make a major change or to, to be kind of this bellwether against this oppressive regime. They're a content company. They simply want to do business there. And certainly we can't expect every company to stand up against everything that we don't like everywhere around the world. It's a difficult situation.
Yeah, I don't know that there is an answer that would please everyone, right?
Right. Exactly.
You're either on the side of the fence that says Netflix shouldn't cooperate with the government that does things that I disagree with it, or there's the side that says Netflix should follow local laws wherever they are. We would want them to respect our laws that are different from other countries in the US. And of course they should respect laws in other countries. And then there's probably people like me who are on the fence saying, well, I understand that Netflix might feel like it can do more good operating in the country and following the letter of the law and pushing these sort of things out to see what will actually stick. And which ones won't. And the Crown Prince is a very controversial character right now, especially in regards to the controversy around the death of a journalist and some people attributing him as the responsible agent. Saudi Arabia says that is not true, but it's tricky. And so, Netflix even having one episode of Hassan Minhaj or having had the second episode up for a while, arguably could be more effective than not operating in the country at all. I don't know that I'm arguing that. I'm just saying. It could be. Hey, folks, if you want to get all the tech headlines each day in about 5 minutes, be sure to subscribe to dailytechheadlines.com. All right. 2018 automotive news was dominated by self-driving cars and Elon Musk. Is that a fair summarization, do you think, Tim?
Yeah, I think so. And the news, of course, wasn't always good, especially in those two topics. With self-driving cars, of course, we had the unfortunate Uber fatality early in the year. I think it was in March, which was a terrible story from beginning to end and ultimately caused a lot of problems for the company and for the autonomous industry as a whole. But yeah, certainly Elon Musk doing lots of Elon Musk things through 2018 was a huge story as well. In 2019, I hope we'll be a little bit more about the hardware, about the cars, about the technology, and about the business. Yeah.
So break it down for us. Is 2019 going to be all more autonomous cars? Do folks who like driving have a reason to be excited this year? I'm sure most of us will still be driving our own cars in 2019.
Yeah, definitely. The vast majority of us said this time next year we'll still be driving our own cars. But one of the big stories, though, will be Waymo stepping forward. Waymo has sort of officially launched their service in the broader Phoenix area, kind of at the last minute in 2018. They flipped the switch and allowed people to actually start using their service there in the Phoenix area. And I was able to go down and actually ride that service. So they'll be continuing to expand that in the greater Phoenix area through 2019. And they're also looking to launch that in the Bay Area as well, doing some rides in the broader San Francisco area. Whether or not that happens this year remains to be seen. But it will be a continual gradual rollout where we'll see more and more areas added in. And there may not even be releases on all these things. It may just kind of happen quietly. But that will grow through the course of this year. But still, it's going to be very, very limited even through the end of this year.
My criticism of the Waymo rollout in Arizona was that it really wasn't any different than the beta program. It was still restricted in who could use it. The only difference was now they had to pay and they could talk to other people about it. They lifted the NDA,
right.
But it wasn't much of a step forward. If they expand to new markets, though, I feel like that's significant. we still got safety drivers and all this stuff though.
Right. And yeah, I totally agree. It was the softest of soft launches, we'll put it that way. But I do like that those riders are no longer under NDA, and I'm really looking forward to hearing more from those riders, the experiences, and ultimately, how it's impacting their lives, because that's one of the bigger things that we don't actually know that much about. But yeah, everything, they do have safety drivers in the car, and they've always had operators in the car, but they had been for quite a bit of the testing in the passenger seat. But according to Waymo, that was actually making their riders nervous, having nobody behind the wheel. So they moved them back over. In my rides, they never had to take over. The car was completely autonomous, and the operator was just sitting there watching, basically. But certainly, as we're looking to get people to feel more comfortable in these cars, I think that ultimately companies should be pretty conservative and do whatever they need to do to make people feel like this is a safe environment.
Is this something that's just going to keep inching forward, and it's going to be years before most people even see the opportunity for this, much less cars that won't have safety drivers in them?
Yeah, sadly so. It's not going to be an overnight kind of thing. We're going to see cars get more and more and more smart. We're already seeing the beginning of that technology in cars now, where cars can kind of steer themselves on highways in limited situations. Tesla, of course, had a lot of fame with autopilot on the highway, but a lot of other companies now, Nissan and Audi and Mercedes-Benz, all have comparable technologies on the road right now. And it's not, it doesn't seem like a big step from there to a fully self-driving car, but of course, it's orders of magnitude more complicated. But we're beginning to see the foundations and the technologies put in cars. More and more cars, for example, are instituting infrared cameras that can watch the driver to see if you're actually paying attention. And that's actually a pretty big part of the equation too, because for a long time, we're going to have cars that will be able to drive themselves in limited situations, but they'll need to hand control back to the driver. So that means the car will need to know if you're even paying attention. And so we're beginning to see cars that can now make that distinction, see if you're actually looking at the road. And that then leads us to the next step of cars that can completely drive themselves in some situations. And then at that point, it'll get broader and broader in those situations that they can drive themselves.
Yeah, that feels like the truth to me. That feels like what's more likely to happen is the cars will just slowly take over more and more of the driving until we suddenly realize one day, oh, I guess I don't really even need to be in here in the driver's seat anymore.
Exactly. But as someone who enjoys driving, I actually am really looking forward to this, because we've all had those long highway crawls, or we've all been stuck in traffic. Certainly you guys in LA, that's just no fun. There's no way that even if you're sitting in the most exotic sports car on the planet, being stuck in traffic sucks. And so every car at some point should have the option to drive itself. And I'm really looking forward to
sitting next to one of the most exotic sports cars on the planet while I'm in my 2002 Prius.
But there are fun cars coming to market this year. And ultimately, I think one of the bigger stories is going to be that this is the year that Tesla sees the strongest competition that it has seen yet. We've certainly seen plenty of other EVs on the market, but by and large, the EVs that have been on the market thus far have been relatively low cost, kind of economy car, hatchback kind of cars, that sort of thing. For the first time, really, we're going to see a number of premium electric cars hitting the market. And those are going to be really going right after Tesla's bread and butter. And so that's really a big question of how exactly will Tesla compete when Audi and Porsche and Mercedes-Benz and Jaguar all have premium EVs on the road. Audis will be first. Their e-tron is coming to market in the first quarter of this year. Porsche's Taycan will be coming to market this year as well. And then the Mercedes-Benz EQC will be hitting the market in Europe, and they're coming to the US in early 2020. All of these are going to be, really nice cars made from brands that you've heard of before, with dealerships all over the place, reliable cars, nice cars, fun to drive cars too. And so they should, again, really be competing directly against Tesla, against all the factors that Tesla has been playing on for years now. And so now the question becomes, has Tesla moved far enough, fast enough to stay ahead of these companies? Or will these companies be able to move more quickly now because they've got, 100 years of experience behind them?
I mean, it might be too much to say this is a make or break year for Tesla, since that's been said every year. But this is the year where, Tesla broke its own production records. It finally did get its production up in Q4 of 2018. It didn't help their stock price any, but it, at least it had good news on that front. That was one of their weakest points. Dealerships might be another one. And like you say, the differential for Tesla up till now has been, hey, want a sports car with electric, want a SUV with electric, Tesla's your only option. Well, now you've got an Audi SUV, you've got a Porsche Taycan, you've got the cars with extreme range. What does Tesla have left to differentiate itself on?
Right now, it's really just range, and I think that's one of the things that these other companies are going to struggle with a bit. We've not gotten official EPA ratings for any of these cars yet because that's a pretty lengthy testing process, but I'm expecting that they'll all be in the low 200 range, so 225 to 200 miles of range for all of these cars. And I think Porsches will be a bit higher, but even so, that's quite a bit less than a Model S or Model X, which will offer you more than 300 miles of range. Their reasoning for doing so is pretty complicated. Typically, their batteries are a little bit smaller because they have more crash protection around them. These companies are also being a little bit more conservative in how they use the batteries with the hope of making the battery packs last longer. And that's definitely been one of the complaints about a lot of Tesla owners or from Tesla owners is that they keep having to get their battery packs replaced because they keep shorting out.
And
that's not good at all. So, these companies who've been around forever, they know that they need to have a reliable car coming to market. And so that's going to be a big change for them too. And then the question will be, are you willing to deal with only 215 miles of range, let's say, versus a Tesla that can do 300? Do you really need 300 miles of range? Those are going to be a lot of things that people are going to have to think about. But ultimately, the warranties on these vehicles should be very good, and they're going to be priced very aggressively, in many cases actually cheaper than Teslas. So, if you can buy a Porsche for a comparable price to a Model S or even less than a Model S, a lot of people will choose the Porsche, I think. And indeed, Porsche has actually surveyed some of their earlier orderers, and a lot of them are actually coming from Tesla. So that's going to be an interesting scene to watch.
Now, I'm sure Tesla will have something to tease us with all year long that we'll keep wondering when they're going to deliver on. What's it going to be?
Yeah, it'll be Model Y. So Model Y is going to be their small crossover SUV. The Model S came first, and the X was the larger SUV that was similar in size to the S. We've got the Model 3 now. Model Y should be the next thing that we see teased. That will not be coming to market, we don't think, until 2020, but I do think that we'll be seeing some more information about that this year. That they've also got a pickup truck coming, so we may see some teasers of that. And of course, the Roadster. We've already seen the new Roadster pretty extensively. That's again not coming to market until 2020, but I'm guessing we'll see some more details on that. And maybe if I get lucky, I might actually get a chance to take one of those for a spin this year. But I'll keep my fingers crossed on that one.
Well, usually CES these days has a lot of announcements. Maybe not so much on models, but definitely on technology. So is there anything you're on the lookout there before we wrap up?
Yeah, Tesla will not be showing us anything at CES, but certainly a lot of other companies will. And from what we're seeing thus far, a lot of the news is actually going to be on the component side of things. So more powerful LiDAR systems for autonomous cars, radar systems, smarter interior systems for more processing power for high resolution displays, things like that. So a lot of these things, again, helping these cars inch their way towards autonomy. But we should expect to see the new Nissan Leaf EV. That'll be, again, a low-cost EV. They just refreshed the Leaf last year, but they've got a bigger battery pack coming. And so we'll see all the details of that at CES here in just a week away.
Yeah, I know. Week from today, we'll be coming back from CES, the DTNS team. So it's kind of crazy to think about. Yeah.
It really is. Oh boy. Also crazy, but wonderful is everyone who participates in our subreddit. You can submit stories and vote on them at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. Help us make our show better, please. Also at facebook.com/groups/dailytechnewsshow. All right, let's move on to the thing of the day. Chris Christensen, the amateur traveler, is here. Our first story in 2019, a new kind of scanner at the Denver, Colorado airport.
This is Chris Christensen from Amateur Traveler with another Tech in Travel Minute. Next time you're at the airport, especially an airport in the U.S., and particularly Denver, you may go through an interesting and different scanning system. The most noticeable thing about the system is that you don't have to go in this little booth and raise your hands. Your arms will be down. But more importantly, this is a faster system. It's the next generation of the body scanners. And it also uses a type of non-ionizing radio frequency energy that emits less radiation than a cell phone. So it is probably also safer. We'll see how long it takes to roll that out. I'm Chris Christensen from Amateur Traveler.
We'll see, because 5 years ago today, I applied for TSA Pre. I don't usually have to go through that scanner, but if I do, for some reason, that'll be very nice. All right, let's check out the mailbag.
Let's do it. This one comes from Sean, and it's in response to quite a few stories we had, especially towards the end of the year, and the idea of cashless societies and how they differ depending on where you are in the world. Sean says, I recently spent 8 days in Denmark and Sweden. In total, all the cash I used the entire trip was 5 Danish kroner. That's not very much. This was a cash deposit refund in an amusement park for recycling my plastic drink cup. Between an Amex and a Visa, I didn't have to withdraw cash anywhere. One bar even had a cards are queen sign. It didn't accept cash at all. I was super happy not to have to pay for convert and access my bank funds. I think the discussion points around this are, number one, how many places in the world are beyond cash? Number two, what are some merchants and consumers in the U.S. Why are some merchants and consumers in the U.S. against going cash free? I think there might be some EU law about transaction fees that could be part of the reason. I did get charged a little more for not having an EU issued credit card. And number three, with Europe so focused on privacy and transparency and data tracking, why are they so willing to give all their purchase information away? In the US, people use cash so they aren't tracked. If I am ignoring the don't spend what you don't have portion of the equation, of course. In the EU, though, everyone seems to be happy to use a card for everything.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I'm finding it more and more common that I can use my phone to pay for stuff here too. Like I think we're catching the wave finally.
We're getting closer.
Yeah,
we're getting closer.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I can pay with my phone at the gas station now. That's a sign to me. Hey guys, we got another email from an anonymous person who works at Amazon and wanted to clarify the human error statement regarding the GDPR information that was incorrectly disclosed. Remember that story from late last year where somebody got sent the wrong information. This person says, I'm not part of that team, but I understand the wording of the press release. What they mean with human error is that a step was manual. At Amazon, we try to automate everything. So what happened is that a step of the process was manual. That's why it's human error. If there was an error in the automated process, the press release would have probably read something like, there was a problem in our process. So there you go. Little Kremlinology for Amazon press releases. For
insider info. Yeah. Well, thanks, Anon. And also thanks to Sean. And also thanks to Tim Stevens for being with us.
Thanks, Sir Lane.
Best of 2019. How does it feel?
Feels pretty good so far. We'll see how things go.
Where can folks keep up with all your amazing work otherwise?
You can find me on Twitter at Tim_Stevens. I'm Tim Stevens with no special characters on Instagram. And of course, theroadshow.com. We've got a big Tesla feature coming up on Friday. So I highly recommend you stay tuned for that. It should be a good one.
Yeah. Be on the lookout for all that good coverage at cnet.com/roadshow. Or what was the other address?
Theroadshow.com works too.
Theroadshow.com. Also, out of habit, it makes me want to say cnet.com/CES since I did that for years.
I'm sure that's going to be working real soon here too.
I'm sure it will be. It's not already. Hey, folks, it's 5 years of DTNS. We're entering our 6th year. And to celebrate, people who stay with our Patreon at particular tiers for 3 months, starting today, January 2nd, will get merchandise with Len Peralta's 5-year anniversary art on it. If you remember December 21st, Len's art, he had 2 posters that day. One was a 5-year anniversary logo. So if you're a co-executive producer or an analyst and you stick at your tier for 3 months, you get a sticker with that logo on it. If you're an advisor, you get a poster with that logo. And if you're at the master level, you get a mug with that logo. Now the clock starts ticking from the moment you change your tier. So if you're at one of those tiers right now, clock's already ticking starting today. But if you want to change that tier, that will reset the clock. So you want to make your decision soon at patreon.com/DTNS/merch.
Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. Keep the feedback coming. We really appreciate it. We're also live Monday through Friday. If you can join us live, please do so. 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 21:30 UTC. And find out more at dailytechnewsshow.com/live.
Back tomorrow with Justin Robert Young. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Good show, you guys.
Yeah,
Very good show. Good stuff, Tim. I actually have a lease ending in a couple of months, and I was going to ask you if you were a budget consumer, such as myself, what would you go for?
Yeah, I think we were talking Honda CR-V or HR-V last time. I think dogs were a concern. I think the if you're looking for a little bit smaller crossover, the HRV is a really good pick. The seats in that I think are really good for dogs, or the Honda Fit if you don't need to go the crossover route, I think is a really good choice too. Again, nice low floor, and the seats fold up, which is good for getting cargo into or pups or anything else. Those are pretty good as well. Or if you want to go the more sedan route, the Civic or the Accord are really, really great too. So a lot of choices in there. I think you can't go wrong.
All right, Honda family it is.
Yeah, I think so.
Good. Yeah, a neighbor of mine just got a CRV, and the body has changed. It's so much more kind of bulbous than it used to be. It used to be real boxy, and now it's quite. They're nice looking cars.
Yeah, they are. And the HRV I think fills a nice gap between the CRV and the smaller crossover range. So that's more like a stretched, lifted Fit a little bit, and then the Fit is kind of their hatchback thing, which we had a Honda Fit for I think 10 years, and that was completely bulletproof. Had no issues at all with it. And again, having the seats fold up when you've got a couple of muddy dogs, as we often do, is really nice. You fold the seats up, they come in, they don't get the upholstery all covered. That was pretty great too. So yeah, I definitely highly recommend those. And again, I think the Ridgeline too, if you're thinking more with the truck side of things. But yeah, I think the HRV, CRV, or Fit somewhere in there should probably fit you pretty well.
All right. Well, thanks for the nudge of encouragement.
Sure, happy to help. Yeah, if you have any other questions, feel free to drop me a line. I'm happy to discuss further.
Thank you.
That was great. That was awesome info.
Yeah, Roger, do you know what you're going to get now?
No, because
you can't afford.
I gotta see what monies are available. Oh, it's probably one of those things where my kids are heavier and bigger. It won't fling food around the car cabin.
SUVs though, and I hear the
crossover.
family.
I'm going with crossover.
Yeah,
it's a car that's slightly lifted with all-wheel drive, but it doesn't have the lower. Like we have a 4Runner that has a standard 4-wheel drive transfer case with a 4-wheel drive low. So like when you descend a hill, you're not like barreling out of control. But don't need that. I don't like most people. Most people would probably be fine with all-wheel drive because they just want to get through the snow.
Yeah, and most all-wheel drive systems and crossovers these days are pretty efficient. They operate front-wheel drive most of the time, so you don't take that big of a hit for fuel economy. And yeah, they operate really well, and they're nice to drive, and they will get you through the snow too. Yeah, but there's a lot of great crossovers on the market now. The XC40 is a really, really fun car. I've got one of those right now. Actually, I'm testing from Volvo. But yeah, there's everybody knows that there's a lot of gold in the crossover hills, so everyone's building those things, and they're all really good.
Yeah, my main concern is like my 2006 Toyota Camry. I love it because it's so cheap to maintain. Like oil change, you just lube the CV joints and you're done. Like, but with like all-wheel drive, you gotta do the rear differential and maybe the viscous coupling, or there's just so many things to oil.
Yeah, it shouldn't be that bad. I mean, I think Subaru I know recommends about 80,000 miles, I think, for the rear diff, something like that. And I think, honestly, a lot of more passenger cars probably aren't even that often. But so
Subaru moved to like all CVT transmissions.
Yep. Even the WRX we're expecting is going to go there before too long. So yeah, it's unfortunate. That's why my Subarus are both old.
like how do they on a WRX? How do they get the torque without breaking the CVT?
Yeah, that's what we're waiting to see. But I think the manual's days are numbered for the Subaru. I'm sorry to say.
Well, I'll go with electric then. Electric, bring it on.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of great choices there too.
That will be our title too. 2019 will be electric.
Electric.
Yeah.
Done.
Great.
I just got an email saying that CNET is hosting a party at CES featuring Run DMC.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Oh, hello. Fun.
Get us in.
Get us in. It's at Dre's Beach Club.
Oh, are you guys on the list?
Oh.
Yeah, Aya's got us on the list.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
nice.
Good.
Are we going to see Run DMC?
Oh.
Next Tuesday? What fun.
Maybe.
It might be fun. I've actually seen them in concert, and it was really fun, actually. That was a long time.
Maybe I'll see you guys there then.
Maybe so.
All right, I'm going to drop off. Thanks again for having me, and again, congrats on 5 years. It's really
Thank
been
you, Tim.
great to watch
Thank you
the
so
success.
much. And maybe we'll run into you at the show floor. Or
I certainly hope so. Yeah, it'd be great to see all of you.
We'll keep an eye, or maybe we'll watch Run DMC together.
That sounds good too. Although I probably won't be there very late because I don't stay up late on CES.
Yeah, me
I'll be
either.
there.
Actually,
You're talking to 3 early
Early to bed.
I go to bed at 8.
Yeah.
It tells you
All right.
what my
That sounds
hours
good.
are.
ready for bed right now.
We'll see you before the show starts then.
All right. Thanks, Tim.
Good night,
Thanks,
everybody.
Tim.
Thanks again.
Bye.
Run DMC.
Where did I see Run DMC? What was that? Oh, not Slims, Bimbos. Remember Bimbos in San Francisco?
Yes.
Down in North Beach. You know, there would be like little tech shows there every once in a while. There was some tech company was putting on something. I don't remember what it was. This is a while ago. This is like 10 years ago, maybe even more. And yeah, they played there.
Was it part of when the big .com?
I think it was part of Macworld, if I remember correctly. Kind of
Macworld.
back in the day when Macworld, Apple was still involved, and there were sort of parties around town. Yeah, if I remember correctly, that's what it was.
Is it BioCal that does the buttons for?
Yes.
Cool. I will text or message.
I noticed some creative
No,
coloring.
it's because when
happening.
I create the new doc, the
Yeah.
script doesn't transfer it over. So that's me just mimicking it. So
Oh, you were doing it manually. I see. No, we just need to install that script. It's not installed in the new version. Because when you copy a document, it only copies the contents.
Oh yeah,
Doesn't
no,
copy the
I'm not familiar with that.
I added him to that rundown, so he should be able to go in and make it happen if you want.
Otis, do you know how to write scripts? He says no. I don't know how to do that.
Oh, we were in one of the Perl scripting channels over the holiday break, me and Otis. Just
Oh, really?
Why is
Oh,
he
I guess
pretending that he doesn't know scripts now?
So he can get treats.
What do you mean, shut up, Otis?
Yeah. Mom, I don't know how to
supposed
do
to
stuff. I don't know how to do it. Little did I know he was writing Perl scripts all weekend.
I just want to write 2019. Terrible.
I
2018. I mean,
that sounds.
Yeah, I
so
was gonna
weird.
say 2019 would be correct.
It sounds so weird to me. Somebody made a joke. I don't know. It was on Twitter or something. Made a joke about like, well, next year is 2020, and so it's going to be the Roaring 20s all over again. And I was like, wow, it's so weird to think of it that way.
Right? Because I mean, I feel like
It's
the 20s
almost the
was not
20s.
that much in the past when I was growing up, right? I mean, it was before I was born,
Yeah,
obviously, but
right. But yeah, it's we have photographic evidence and
it's recent. Yeah, they're movies and yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, it's just
that's when all the bad stuff happened.
I tell you what,
No,
if
the
I had
Roaring-
more time,
well, the
I
30s were more, I think, depressive.
would. Oh,
than
the
the
30s where the bad stuff happened.
That was the bad
the rise of Nazism and the Great Depression. Those are pretty
Sure.
bad. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
The Great Depression.
Yeah. 20s were what? Prohibition and lots of bathtub parties.
A lot of Charleston and flappers.
That too.
Yeah. They were roaring because the economy was roaring.
Right. Is that what it?
Yeah.
Never
And
really.
parties and
Yeah,
living
it was
the high
just-
life.
It was the Great Gatsby. All over again.
Yeah. And then 1929 is when everything came crashing down.
Well,
We need a man like Herbert Hoover again.
So we can name my childhood junior high after him as well, or her.
did you go to Hoover Junior High?
I went to Herbert Hoover Junior High. When you go up to the second floor, there was a little display case. On the first and third floors, it was sporting trophies and stuff. On the second one, it was a little explanation of who he was and the kind of man he was and how crappy
And
his
how he
administration
ruined
was.
the country's economy.
Like, it's
Yeah.
funny. They left out the part of Hoovervilles.
Yeah.
Right? Like, who doesn't love a good Hooverville?
Isn't that just a euphemism for Hobo Town? Or, homeless encampment. Hoovervilles. That's depressing.
There were people who still believed in him even after they thought he got a bad rep.
A man who wears sweaters does not lie.
Well, no, he does. A sweater does not
A sweater does not know.
make a truthful man.
Sweater doth not make the man.
Yeah.
But I have to trust him. He's wearing a sweater.
Yeah. He seems so warm.
I'm wearing a Christmas present.
Are you?
Yeah, this was from my sister-in-law.
It's very nice.
Yeah.
It's got a little bit of a Austin vibe type thing going on.
It's not a flannel.
No,
It's also not exactly. I guess it could be considered a plaid. It's a
plaid.
Yeah,
Plaid. Check.
but it's not a
good.
flannel. It's just a
Yeah.
regular shirt. It's a lightweight shirt for that is meant particularly to be easily to pack without taking up a lot of space and wrinkle resistant.
Aha. I like
All they
it.
need are just a shirt fabric that you can wear, but it's also like chameleon cloth. It'll change. So you could just pack one pair of shirt or a pair of pants and a pair of shirts and you're set.
Self-cleaning pattern changing shirt.
Yeah.
So you just hang it up at night and it cleans itself, and then it's a different color, different pattern the next day. And then you only have to pack 2 shirts, one to sleep in, one to wear around.
Yeah.
Well, in our tech prediction show, Tom, you talked about the idea of a lot more wearable
Wearables,
technology.
Yeah.
The self-cleaning shirt is the best technological advancement I could possibly ask for.
I don't think
Especially if
it's coming this year.
Well,
Well, all they need to do is make
wishful thinking, but I love that idea. Or
me
or
too.
the shirt that fits really well and it's like can be 7 different colors.
that would be well, so I'm thinking like a fabric that's as comfortable as cotton, like you can sit in it but it's like Scotch Guard polyester, like you could put something on it, like you could pour like a soda on it, it would just beat up and drip off, like it wouldn't stick or stay.
There are cotton shirts like that. They're not you lose the comfortable. That's the part.
But that's the thing, like something
they're
that
a little stiff.
it doesn't feel like you're wearing an ironing board.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do some shirts feel like you're wearing an ironing board?
Polyester. All
Well,
polyester feels like it's
Roger
Oh.
often forgets to take the ironing board out after he's done.
It's just this is so uncomfortable.
it just
But
feels
the
your
ironing board's
posture-
sticking out of your shirt again. That's why.
Oh no, it's the hanger. No, like polyester's the worst. I don't know why
Well,
it was
polyester doesn't breathe very well. That's the problem I always had with it. Depends on what you're wearing, of course, but there's certain where you're like, I don't.
It just doesn't,
like
especially
the
if you're
feel of
working in it, like a shirt, polyester shirt, and you're working, like you're weighting tables. It's just gross.
It can be. It can be. Well, speaking of fabric, I bought some new linen sheets. So wearing them at bed, I suppose, wrapping myself in them. And it's funny because they came, I ordered them on Amazon and they came in. So I washed them. And of course, they come all nice and beautiful. And then you wash linen once and it's like super wrinkly. And I just was like, not going to iron my sheets. I'm too lazy for that. So they seemed like they'd be kind of crinkly and not that comfortable, but boy, they're comfortable. Oh, linen sheets are the way to go.
I always get the high
Very
thread
happy.
count now. I made the mistake when I was younger, just like I'll go with whatever's cheapest, and it's difference between comfort and scratchy.
We for a long time didn't even use a sheet. We just used the comforter. But for some reason, we got these new sheets. I can't remember the UGG. They might have been UGG sheets, and they were so warm. And it's been chilly here. I mean, not cold for the rest of the country, but cold for us. 30s at night, upper 30s.
Yeah.
And so when we were changing, Eileen was like, "Well, I guess we don't need a sheet. We were just trying that out." I'm like, "No, find another warm sheet that's not as comfortable as the UGG sheet was, but it definitely helps keep you warm. It's layering, simple thing of layering."
Yeah.
Hey, before we say goodbye to the video folks, I want to remind you that we do have this cool new merch program. It's a beta from Patreon, and they were nice enough to allow us to join it. and you benefit. All you can do is get things from it. So if you stick at your tier for 3 months and you're at the $10, $20, $30, or $50 a month tier, you'll get something. Patreon.com/DTNS/merch to find out what. But it's basically a sticker at the co-executive producer and analyst level, a poster at the advisor level, and a mug at the master level. And they all have the logo that Len made for DTNS's 5-year anniversary. So check it out, patreon.com/DTNS/merch. And audio folks, stick around. There's more to come.